Hey, this is Adam Torres, and I'm here to tell you that it has never been easier to start your very own podcast. At Mission Matters, our goal is to amplify stories that matter. That means we want to help you start your podcast because your story matters. We can do this in 3 different ways. 1, join our podcast school and take a free or paid course. 2, visit our resources page where we've already figured out what you need, such as where to host your podcast. Or 3, heck, we can even do everything for you through our podcast agency, including editing for cheaper than you can do in-house. Oh, and no contract, service is month to month. Get started by heading over to missionmatters.com and click on Start a Podcast. All right, now let's get into the show. Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Mission Matters Money Podcast, your source for all things money. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at AskAdamTorres to keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, missionmatters.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, so today I have Andrew Kline on the line, and he's founder and managing director over at Kline. Andrew, welcome to the show.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
All right, Andrew, so I'm excited about today's topic. So we're going to talk about trends in sports investment banking and things that you're noticing. But before we do that, let's go a little bit further into what you're doing over at Kline. Tell us a little bit more about your firm, please.
Great. Well, before I start that, we were introduced by my good friend Greg Spillane, who I played college football with, and he's a godfather of one of my children, and he's over at Fancy.com, the CEO over there. So thank you to him for making this introduction. And the little bit on Kline is we're a very traditional investment bank. We help people with the acquisitions and sales of their businesses, capital raising, financial strategy. And it just so happens that we focus on the world of sports. It's in this day and age within investment banking, it's really not. It doesn't make sense to be a generalist because things are getting so specialized that you've got to focus on a sector, and it just so happens to be that our sector is sports. We primarily about half of the transactions that we do are helping people buy and sell sports teams, or we're working with the leagues or governing bodies, and that's globally. And then I've always loved entrepreneurship. Kline is the 3rd business that I've started. It's now 15 years old, so it's been a while since I've started one. But so the other thing that we've done since day one is we've funded about 75 businesses that are anywhere from an early stage, kind of like a $5 million seed investment, all the way up to $100 million plus later stage. And that's typically consumer companies, media and entertainment companies, or technology companies that are functioning in and around the world of sports. So a lot of the technologies that you use to view sports or products that you use that are sports based, we've worked with for years now. So that's really another very cool part of the business that I really enjoy being a part of, because I just love entrepreneurship and seeing these things turn from an idea into something actually kind of tangible. So that's Kline, yeah.
I love talking to specialists, because I mean, it's just to be upfront. Now that I think about it, now you bring that up, I think this is the first investment bank that's directly like the niche of sports that I've interviewed now. I mean, I'm going to like 3,000 interviews. I'm like, I covered a lot of different ones. I'm like, wait a minute, this is awesome. I knew it was going to be good in the first place, but I really love the fact that you have that other side of it. So on the content side and buying businesses and other things outside, and so it's all directly related in the same niche. But I think that provides you with an extremely unique vantage point from a traditional investment bank that maybe doesn't have that content side or those other things, even for the smaller businesses like that $5 million of seed, things like that, because then you understand things a whole lot more in terms of distribution and what that looks like, just because your money's at play. So it's a different, I think, unique opportunity offered there, and I think that's what makes it also really interesting, our topic today, because you have a unique vantage point from coming from both sides, really, and as long as you've been doing this. So trends in sports investment banking and things that you've been noticing. I mean, I know it's a weird time for us all right now, so as we're recording this, just to not date this, we're recording this really in the middle of the pandemic, July 2020, so just to set that up for us, Andrew. So what are you noticing? Like, what's interesting right now?
Well, if we just stick to the team side first, that's it's probably one of the most impacted businesses out there. You know, a restaurant, I would say, is up there. And, you know, the reality is probably 90% of revenues are at risk right now within the world of sports. So you've got major teams that make their money by selling their media rights and selling tickets and selling sponsorship, and all of that stuff is looking, you know, like it's in danger or getting pulled back right now. So, you know, a lot of what we're seeing and doing there is, you know, talking to individual teams, team owners, internationally. A lot of times it's governing bodies, or you know, like literally there's clubs that will own the entire league. So we're just working with those teams and leagues and trying to figure out their situation. The good news is this isn't an industry that's going to go away after the pandemic. It's probably going to be an industry that is going to show us all that, hey, we're actually allowed to get back to life. So really what we're just trying to do there is solve between now and when life returns to normal, and find, you know, kind of financing strategies to do that. And some teams have strong enough balance sheets where they can move some things around and get it done, and other teams need to take on equity partners or borrow money to do that. On the business side, you know, I mentioned the more the venture businesses that work with. You know, about 10% of the companies that we've worked with are in a lot of trouble. Some of those are, you know, a lot of what has to do with sports is restaurants and that type of, you know, services. So those guys are in a lot of trouble. Some are kind of emerging stronger. Some are going away. But on the flip side, we work with a lot of direct-to-consumer companies now, and those companies are taking off. And I can't mention specific names for that because of FINRA registration, like, you know, the security. But what I will say is this: is that, you know, some of those companies had projections that are double and triple right now than what they were projected to do, because people need product and they're happy to go online to go and get it. So they're kind of it's kind of a bell curve. Like, I'd say 10 to 15% of the companies that we're seeing are in a lot of trouble. You know, 70 to 80% are going to be fine, even if they're somewhat affected by it. And then, you know, about 10 to 15% are absolutely thriving during this environment. So that's the sort of the trends that we're seeing right now.
So let's stick on the team side for a little bit longer. I mean, it's just such a. I mean, I agree with you, by the way. So as soon as I personally cannot wait till like get to go ahead to be able to go to a game. I'm like, where am I going to buy tickets from? They're going to be cheap. They're going to be, hopefully, I'm like, I'm in. Like, as soon as I grab some season tickets to anything around me, I'm in, because I'm ready to get back to life personally. That's just my personal view. That's not medical opinion. That's what I want to do. Because I miss it. I mean, I miss it. It's just, you know, it's the lifeblood of a lot of excitement and things and energy in a city. And like you said, the restaurants, all the things that the ecosystem, the full ecosystem around sports. I think sometimes we throw around big numbers, but we don't understand how that trickle down works, right? If you're noticing, and I know we're still in the middle of this, I'm not asking you to have a crystal ball, but what are some of the things that you think may happen in terms of going forward with some of these teams? Like, do you think it's going to at some point just kind of revert back to normal, or do you think there's going to be more online, more like of a hybrid model? Like, because obviously things are going to change. And again, not asking you to have the crystal ball, but I know you have a unique vantage point.
Yeah. Well, you know, we were around in 2008 when the great financial crisis happened, and you know, one of the things that happened is some of the people that owned teams that were really affected by them needed to sell them. So you'll see through this. I'm expecting, you know, some trade of hands of owners, just because some people are going to need to sell their assets to take care of their core businesses. But what I've noticed in sports from just a trend of fans is, you know, a couple of years ago, whenever we would go to a meeting, whether it was at a team or a league or anywhere, you know, the first, second, and third concern was safety around terrorism, because it was at a point where, you know, where you know, people, you know, terrorists were going into venues and there was a real threat. And so, you know, they addressed that stadiums are much safer now. There's pretty much not a venue that you're going to not go through a metal detector and have increased security. And I think, and now people don't even think about it anymore. It's way less down on the priority grid. It's stadiums are just as safe, but fans and executives have now moved on to solving this. So my guess, just going through those cycles, is that once play returns to normal, there will probably be societal changes where you will see more people probably wearing masks and using sanitizers and other things. But I think humans have short memories, and we're social beings, and I think that people are just going to want to get right after it. And then when they're in the venue and having fun and cheering on their team and had a beer or two and in a really happy mood, I mean, that's what they're there to forget about all that other stuff. So I think that feeling of sort of like being able to just check out from reality and root for your team is going to be highly addictive and quite frankly a great way to recover from a lot of the things that our country and the world is facing right now. So.
That's well put, and I agree with you. And I don't mean this in a funny way, but I feel like I feel like the bane of all of our existence is going to be the day you have a fever, because I think we're going to be getting like zapped with those dang things everywhere you go, and you're like, I don't have anything, I just have a cold, leave me alone. I have allergies, all right? Can I please eat? Like, it's okay. I've had allergies since I was a kid. I don't mean that in a funny way. I know it sounds funny and it's a terrible thing, but it's like, geez, I know like the other business partner here, co-founder, Chirag, he has allergies like 2 to 3 months out of the year, and I'm like, man, you're in trouble. You're not going to be able to like leave your house or go anywhere. People are going to be looking at you, and you have allergies. Like, we know this, and I'm like, so it's like, it's tough, man. The new whatever this is going to be, it's going to be interesting.
It sure will be.
The business side of it. So we covered the sports side on that. So same kind of vein of thought, but I'd like to focus more on like what you're seeing in terms of like potential pivots, or I guess that's the buzzword of the day, pivot. So a lot of like ways to figure out how to. I know you said maybe 10% aren't doing the best, but the ones that are in that middle ground that have the potential to and/or opportunity. What kind of like savvy founders, and you don't have to give names or like companies, but what kind of savvy things are you seeing happening for people in your niche that are kind of pivoting to still figure out a way to not only stay alive but grow?
Yeah, well, on the team side, it's really just how do you get the games happening even without the fans to deliver that content so people at home can watch, because the reality is that most of the revenue derived from sports teams is the selling of their media rights. So that's actually not that difficult of a problem. If teams are allowed to play, they will play even without fans, and then they'll be able to sell their media rights. On the business side, I said it earlier, but just that push to direct to consumer. If you've got a path line to your consumer, a direct path to your consumer, and you can, I think goal number one would be able to sell, like to be an Amazon and be able to have a marketplace, or to be able to sell your product directly to your customer, not have to wholesale it and go to retailer is really, an important push right now. I think people that do have retail are really, really, really trying to figure that piece out, and what retail looks like, in the future. And so that I don't have a crystal ball and know what at least for the next. My personal opinion is in 24 months, people are going to kind of forgotten about this. And we're not going to we might have slight lasting effects, but we're not going to have what we have now. And then, there's all kinds of things. There's technologies that people are producing right now that we don't even know what they're going to do, but they're going to highly affect our lives. Software that helps, like a company like Waze, right? I mean, that's software that enables you to get around better. And so I think that technology is always going to be a very important part of the business ecosystem, and certainly what we look for, especially in the world of sports. But technology applies across every single vertical that there is. So,
for sure.
Within the world of sports, though, the technology that is the most important that the teams are looking for is a way to make sure that if you go into that venue, you feel really safe. So more than just your temperature being taken, there's got to be something, and we're seeing real things right now that are absolutely safe, and they kind of eliminate any virus that would be in a building, and also that can test you right on the spot to see if you have anything. So, if everybody goes into a sports venue or a concert venue or something and they've been tested on their way in, it's worth that extra 5 seconds to go in there and be like, all right, well, everyone in here is fine. It's kind of like when you go into a venue and you've gone through metal detector, there's just an extra element of peace that like, all right, this is much safer. So
it's awesome.
Yep.
That's great, and I love it. And that just excites me. That's my favorite thing about what I do. I mean, obviously I have fun meeting people and doing what we do, but I just hear these technologies and new things, and I'm like, man, these people. I'm like, keep it up, especially in healthcare. I'm like, keep it up, because I'm not getting any younger here. We're all getting older by the second. I'm like, I want you smart people to keep on improving my quality of living as I get older. Yep. So I'm in. I'm like, keep it up.
Absolutely.
You too. Keep up the good work, Andrew, because they need money. So,
absolutely.
All right, Andrew, so final question. So if somebody's listening to this and they want to learn more about Park Lane or to connect with you and follow your brand, I mean, what's the best way for them to reach out and do that?
Right. So we're a services firm. We're not really a consumer-facing brand, so we don't have a lot of stuff out there. We do have a website, parkln.com, so that's Park Lane abbreviated. I do have a LinkedIn page, Andrew Kline, and if you did a Google search on Park Lane or my name, there's a number of deals and articles out there that one could find. We also have a white paper series that you can find on our website that of just sort of interesting and relevant things that we'll write on from time to time. Some are 2 pages, some are 200 pages, but that's another way to kind of dive into some of the way we're thinking about things. But other than that, I would say the website is the best way to learn a little bit more about us.
Awesome. Well, Andrew, really appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing more about your background, all the great things you're doing over at Park Lane. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, leave a review on the Apple iTunes Store. And if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, Mission Matters Money, definitely give us a subscribe there, but also leave us some comments on the video. Love to know what kind of things and projects you're working on. And Andrew, thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you. You take care.